baby.
That's great.
My Mercedes got the heat seats, baby. Now that shit is fine. Pull up on me. What is that see-through shirt? I get a sneak peek, baby. That shit is hard.
Did you put Drake at your level?
No.
You're not putting Drake at your level.
No, see, you might be, I could see it in your eyes, you might be confused with the numbers and all of the fake numbers flood the marketplace 50 something. That shit ain't nothing. So we got the Drake trolls moving the goalposts yet again, claiming that numbers do not tell that Iceman is really doing well. You cannot, it's crazy.
Did you listen to Iceman, the new?
I listened to some of it. My engineer it was horrendous. My homies actually sat there and they lost an hour of their life for this shit.
Drake said, I was Aiden Ross with streams before Aiden Ross had ever streamed. Drake said I was aiding Ross as in he was helping Rick Ross with streams on Apple Music, on Spotify, with getting his music streams up through helping him with hit songs before Aiden Ross, the popular streamer, had ever streamed.
Drake is a genius. He made 2 albums that were so dog shit, it makes the third one sound kind of okay. Maid of Honor and Habibti is like rat poison in music form.
The man dropped 3 albums. He dropped 3 albums. 3 albums. That's actually bad. That's actually terrible. Every song sounded the same. Every song sounded the same. You must are overhyping this shit. I don't understand why you're overhyping this shit. Why you got his so deep, just deep up in here, just.
I am not a Drake apologist. I love Drake a lot. But really and truly, these 3 albums, all of them were just trash. I'm going to be honest.
Somebody said the album was trash? No. I'm going to be honest with you. Hey. Save that opinion. I'm not saying to change your opinion. I would just like for you to have this convo with me in September.
You know, I'm a very insecure person when it comes to my music, and especially when we're talking about starting a whole new chapter like what we're working on now. Yeah. And that's only because until you've surrendered it to the world, you really don't know how people are going to feel about it. And even when you surrender it to the world, now we're in the times where, you know, the first reaction is just people just want to say the funniest shit. So it's always like the album will drop at 12:01, trash bins, you know, whatever. For any artist, you know, it's like, you know, I think people are more excited about, you know, being top comment than being, you know, actually really taking in an album and listening. But inevitably you need music in your life. So then 2-3 weeks passes and you get an honest gauge on what you just surrendered to.
I remember a line you said on Emotions, you said opinions from total strangers take you out of your ways. Does that still bother you at this point in your career?
Depends on what narrative we're talking about, you know, but definitely.
Drake didn't suddenly become corny overnight. It took some time. I'm kidding. He didn't suddenly forget how to make music. He didn't suddenly lose talent. And if we're being honest, Drake probably hasn't changed as much as people think he has. The truth is colder than that. People simply got tired of seeing him win. And that's the part nobody really wants to say out loud, because the conversation around Drake is usually framed like, is the music still good? Did Kendrick end him? Is he washed? Did he fall off? But I don't think that's the real conversation. The real conversation is this: the internet doesn't know how to peacefully coexist with dominant people. It builds people up, then ultimately resents them for staying too long. And that's why Drake is such an interesting case study, because Drizzy wasn't just successful, he was unavoidable. Every summer had a Drake record. Every breakup playlist had Drake in it. Every Instagram caption sounded like Drake. Every club, every car, every meme page, every NBA player, every feature run, Drake was there. At some point, people stop reacting to the music and start reacting to your presence. And once your presence becomes annoying to people, it almost doesn't matter what you release. They already decided how they feel about you.
He's a sellout, and I feel like at the end of the day, listen, I like Drake's music. I think Drake makes good music, but I think he has to be focused on making the music that we like and stop trying to now be the competitor of Kendrick Lamar. We all know you're lyrically not Kendrick Lamar, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Kendrick Lamar is a lyrical genius. You are not, but you make great music. You're a pop star. You're an artist. You're a hitting. You hit. So just focus on making Kiki, Do You Love Me? And stop trying to make these deep lyrical songs, because that's not what people rock with you for.
Early Drake worked because people felt like he was human. That was the whole appeal. He didn't act like he was the toughest rapper. He wasn't the most mysterious. He wasn't trying to be the gangster in the room. He was emotional, petty as hell, insecure, confident and insecure at the same time. He sounded like somebody that would send a paragraph at 2:30 a.m. in the morning expressing his feelings, then act like it didn't mean nothing to him. And people actually related to that, because before Drake, a lot of rap was built around untouchable confidence. Drake made vulnerability commercial. He made it normal for a rapper to say, I'm hurt, I'm a little bit jealous, I care too much, I miss somebody I probably shouldn't miss. That made him feel reachable. And when people feel like they discovered you before the world knew, they protect you a little bit differently. They root for you differently. They forgive you differently. But over time, something changed. Drake stopped feeling like the talented guy trying to prove that he belonged, and started feeling like the billion-dollar entertainment machine that never goes away. And audiences treat those two people completely different. People tend to forgive flaws in underdogs. They resent flaws in empires. That's why something that would have been harmless 10 years ago now becomes evidence that Drake is corny, washed, trying too hard, or out of touch. It's not because one specific moment changed things, but because the emotional relationship changed. Once people stop seeing you as human and start seeing you as an institute, every single flaw feels offensive.
Drake's albums were ass. All three of them. And this is coming from a die-hard Drake girl, so don't come for me. Okay, Drake has been my #1 top artist since middle school in my Spotify. He has not missed a year, minus this year. That's the first time he has not been my #1 top artist. The albums were bad. I could have done those beats myself in Roblox. Pull up GarageBand, I could have done that shit myself. Like, compared to old Drake, the albums were ass. I think Kendrick really started getting into his brain.
This motion that people don't like Drake or hate on Drake because he needs to grow up, his music is not relatable no more, is so stupid, bro. Bro, first of all, he's a multi-millionaire. He cannot relate to you anyway. He has more money. Life is different when you're that rich, no matter the age you are. And think about it, bro. He's a rap artist, a musical artist. Out of all the famous people, wealthy people in the world, we all know musical artists have this weird ego, a big ego. And compared to all the other rappers, he's pretty okay. Never really having legal troubles. You know, he's living his life, partying every night. You know, one of his famous verses is, "We party every night to my accomplishments," because he basically wins all the time. Y'all care about musical artists, famous people's personality way too much. No one's perfect. Bro, as long as he's not evil, like, who cares, bro? He's a little childish, cocky, bro. He deserved it. Especially everyone turned on him in 2024. He's pissed off. He got a point to prove now. He got a chip on his shoulder. Let him be. Just say you're a hater. Just say you're a hater, bro.
This is where a lot of people get fooled. The internet doesn't love celebrities as much as it loves narratives. And Drake's original narrative, oh, that was perfect. The new kid from Canada, the cat from Degrassi, the rapper that hip-hop purists didn't quite respect.
Ninth Wonder. My manager at the time told me to go home and watch Degrassi. And I was like, okay, what am I looking for? He said, it's a guy on there by the name of Wheelchair Jimmy. And I said, okay. So I went home and I watched it. And Drake is arguably the first rapper in hip hop that you looked at and said, there's no way this motherfucker's a rapper. Like, no. Drake is, to me, just the way he looked and all, I'm like, man, rapping about what? What is he rapping about? The cover of Comeback Season doesn't look like a rap album. It looks like a R&B Abercrombie & Fitch ad. Like, it doesn't look like, I'm not trying to be funny. That's just what it is, right? So he said, man, this dude, he wants a beat from you. So I got, all right, it. So I sent him the beat. And the shit, when he sent that shit back, I said, man, this can't be the same person. I was called up by Ludacris to produce on Theater of the Mind in Toronto. So I played him beats, and I played the beat Anita Heat. And he was like, man, who beat is that? I said, man, I want to give it to you, but this kid named Drake got it. He was like, where he from? I said, he's actually from Toronto. He's like, man, I ain't never heard of that nigga. I said, you will.
That's a fact. You will.
The emotional guy, trying to prove he can stand next to the hardest rappers in the game. That story was powerful. People love watching somebody rise, especially when they feel underestimated. But here's the problem. What happens when the underdog wins for too long?
People who want to see this nonsense. Drake's so scared to drop this shit. He knows that this shit gonna do 150, right? He knows first week sales gonna be 175, 225 if motherfuckers curious, right? Other than that, womp, right? That shit gonna be like every Marvel movie that has dropped in the last couple years. Womp.
Iceman is now projected to debut at #1, selling 475 units first week.
Eventually, the story runs out of places to go. After you dominate radio, streaming, pop culture, social media, features, memes, and the charts for a decade, you're no longer the scrappy outsider. You become the establishment. And once you become the establishment, the internet, well, they look for somebody to humble you. But don't be mistaken, this happens in sports too. People always love a dynasty in the beginning. Then they get tired of him. They love Tom Brady until he won too much. They love LeBron when he was chasing greatness. Then they got tired of hearing about him every day. They love greatness when it's climbing. They resent greatness when it becomes permanent. That's not just music. That's human nature, because success inspires people at first. But after a while, success reminds people of what they haven't done. And that's when admiration turns into resentment. I don't think people talk enough about fame fatigue, because when somebody is everywhere all the time, the quality starts to become secondary. You just get tired of seeing them. And Drake, he was everywhere. Albums, features, courtside, interviews, TikTok sounds, club records, sad records, pop records, rap records, dance records, UK flows, Caribbean records, Houston records, Toronto records. At some point, it wasn't even about, is the record actually good? It became, why am I seeing Drake again? And once it reaches that point, every single move gets judged harder. That same exact confidence becomes arrogance. The same jokes become cringe. The same emotional honesty becomes manipulation. The same formula that made you successful becomes the thing that people use against you. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Coolness requires distance. Mystery helps people stay cool. When people don't see too much of you, they project onto you. They begin to imagine things. They fill in the blanks. But when they see everything, every caption, every selfie, every live stream clip, every joke, every outfit, every attempt to trap into a trend, every emotional reaction, the mystique, the aura you built starts to disappear.
So if there could be like a base or like something dark underneath this shit, I think this shit reminds me of that shit reminds me of like that Shawty Low beat. Yeah, all that shit's gone. And this drum too is like so predictable. I hate that shit. Woo. This shit though, with the right hook on it.
And the internet, it's non-forgiving. It punishes visual effort, especially from people at the top. If a smaller artist does something that's awkward, people call it authentic. If Drake does the same thing, they call it cringe. Why? Because people give underdogs room to be human. They give legends almost no room to be normal. And this is where I think regular people can really understand this, because it happens on a smaller level too. Let somebody at your job start winning too much. Let somebody in your family start doing better. Let someone in your inner circle be the one everybody starts talking about. At first, people clap. Then they watch, then they compare, then they wait. And eventually, some people don't need you to do anything wrong. They just need you to finally look vulnerable. That's when the jokes come out. That's when the old resentment comes out. That's when people say, I've been telling y'all. And that's why Drake's situation is bigger than Drake. This is about when people stay on top longer than they're expected to. Now, let's talk about Kendrick, because people are gonna say, no, Raymundo, Kendrick changed everything. And yes, Kendrick did change the temperature, but I don't think Kendrick created the backlash. I think Kendrick unlocked feelings that were already there. That's the difference. The Drake and Kendrick situation exploded publicly in 2024 after calling out Drake and J. Cole. And then the back and forth escalated into multiple disses. But the reason it hit so hard wasn't because Kendrick went off. It went hard because the public was emotionally ready to see Drake challenged. People were waiting for a crack in the armor. They were waiting for the giant to bleed. And once Kendrick gave the internet permission to laugh at Drake, the jokes became bigger than the music.
I know you see this blow up at BBL Drizzy, BBL Drizzy, BBL Drizzy, BBL Drizzy, BBL Drizzy, BBL Drizzy.
That's when it became cultural. They were reacting to years of overexposure, dominance, and quiet resentment. And this is where perception matters. Because once the culture starts seeing you through a different lens, everything gets reinterpreted. The same Drake that people once saw as confident now gets called defensive. The same Drake that used to be funny now gets called corny. The same Drake that used to be seen as emotional now gets called calculated. And when Kendrick dropped the Not Like Us video, it didn't just feel like a music video. It felt like a public ceremony. The visuals leaned directly into the beef with Drake and OVO, including the owl imagery, the piñata, the crowd chants, and the caged owl. Whether you're a Drake fan or a Kendrick fan, you have to understand what they did psychologically. It gave people a visual image of Drake being symbolically defeated. And online, symbolism matters. Sometimes the image itself beats the argument. This is the part that's dangerous. Once people smell weakness, they start rewriting your entire history. Songs that they used to love become overrated. Moments that they used to quote become lame. Personality traits that they used to love become flaws. And this is why public perception is so powerful. It doesn't just judge the present. It goes back and edits the past. People don't say, I don't like this new Drake song. They say, Drake was always corny. Drake was never that good. Drake was always fake. Drake only won because of the features. That's not a music review anymore. That's a reputation collapse. And reputation collapses are way more emotional before they're ever logical. People decide how they feel first. Then they go find evidence to support it. So here's the question nobody really wants to sit with. Did Drake actually fall off dramatically, or did the feeling around Drake die? Because those are not the same thing. Sometimes the artist doesn't lose all ability. Sometimes the audience loses emotional attachment. The second becomes familiar. The formula becomes predictable. The dominance becomes expected. And when something stops surprising people, they start calling it a decline. But sometimes it's not decline. Sometimes it's saturation. Sometimes people age out of the emotion. Sometimes the culture shifted. Sometimes that discovery feeling disappears because nothing stays new forever. Not a song, not a style, not a celebrity, not even Drake. And this is where Drake has to take some accountability too. Because yes, the internet is unfair. Yes, audiences are fickle. Yes, people love tearing down successful people. But Drake also became a victim of his own formula. He got so good at being Drake that people started predicting Drake. The vulnerable line, the petty caption, The toxic relationship angle, the luxury loneliness, the timestamp records, the mob boss talk, the they doubted me energy, even after becoming one of the biggest artists alive. At a certain point, the same formula that built the empire can start making the empire feel stale. And that's the risk of long-term success. You become rewarded for a pattern, then punished for repeating it. And honestly, this is why I think this conversation is bigger than rap, because what Drake is experiencing happens to a lot of men at the top. Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, LeBron James. You get the picture. Maybe not on a global celebrity level, but the pattern is familiar. When you're climbing, people cheer. When you're winning, people watch. When you keep winning, people start to compare. When you win too long, people wait for the fall. And the moment you stumble, some people don't respond with a concern. They respond with relief, because your stumble makes them feel like balance is restored. That's a dark part of human nature, but it's real. Some people don't hate your success because you did something wrong. They hate it because your success became too visible, too constant, too loud, too hard to ignore. And that's why the internet eventually turns on dominant figures. Not always because they failed, sometimes because they lasted. The internet isn't built for permanence. It needs motion, new heroes, new villains, new scandals, new underdogs, new people to crown, new people to embarrass. The algorithm rewards emotional swings. It doesn't reward peace. It rewards the rise, then it rewards the fall. And that's why sustained excellence is so hard online. Because if you stay successful too long, your success stops feeling inspirational and starts feeling like something people want interrupted. That's what happened with Drake. He became too permanent. And permanence is dangerous to a culture addicted to novelty. So no, I don't think Drake suddenly woke up one day and was terrible. I think the emotional contact changed. People stopped hearing Drake as that hungry young artist trying to prove himself. They started hearing him as the giant trying to protect the throne. And once the audience sees you that way, everything hits different. Confidence sounds like insecurity. Consistency sounds like laziness. Presence feels like overexposure. And success starts to look like arrogance. That's the real Drake conversation. Not whether the album is good. I liked it. Not whether Kendrick won. Not whether the internet is just being unfair. The real conversation is this. The internet loves building people into symbols. But the moment somebody becomes too big, too visible, and too successful for too long, the same people that crowned them look for a reason to take the crown down. And Drake might be the clearest example that we've seen in hip hop, because no one can stay new forever. Nobody can stay beloved forever. And nobody, not even Drake, can stay on top without eventually becoming the target. But I want to know what y'all think. Did Drake really fall off, or did people simply get tired of seeing him win? Drop it in the comments. And if you want more breakdowns like this, where I don't just react to the moment, I break down what the moment really means. Make sure you hit that sub to the right and to the left. More dope content. Until next time, I'm out.
This that Raymundo Reacts, huh? Y'all came in for the laughs, huh? You did. Stay for the commentary cause it makes sense, huh? Real talk. That boy is good.